Can you think of a time where you were feeling just that mental load and you went to God with that and he just met you there? Because I think as we talk about all these things are so helpful. I was like, I almost put a reminder like, Court, you're a Christian podcast. Don't forget to say Jesus. But can you think of a time where you were like, I don't know if I can do another thing? And you're like, Lord, and some things couldn't be canceled. Can you think of a time that God met you there?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I can think of a time because I feel like I go to the Lord with that all the time.
Yeah.
But recently, the ministry of risen motherhood that I mentioned at the beginning, my sister-in-law have been doing, and I have been doing that for almost 10 years. And we actually just recently brought our content creation for that ministry to a close. And that was a really big decision, a really hard decision, but it was one of those things where, I was trying to juggle this ongoing work, this ongoing responsibility with a lot of other really good things. But as our kids have gotten older, activities have gotten more demanding. Just like my time looks different. And, serving in the local church, my husband's very involved in a lot of business endeavors here locally, and just kind of realizing like, ooh, we need to really think about this next season because I do have a lot of plates spinning and I can't keep spinning all of them. So
Yeah.
what's going to
Yeah.
go? And I just, it was a really difficult decision, but the Lord really provided clarity on that. And it was kind of a long off ramp. Like her and I made this decision, well over a year ago. And we
Hmm.
just now have gotten to that point where the ministry is going to wind down, come to a close. And that was like a work professional change in my life that took a lot of prayer, but the Lord guided and gave clarity. And that was like a bigger decision, but that's one example of,
That's so great.
it's like I think as moms, sometimes we don't want to do this, but we have to be willing to have those moments where we go to the Lord and we truly say everything's on the table,
Yeah.
and we really open our hands up and we say, okay, Lord, like use your word and your guidance and the wise people in my life and help me really truly evaluate this and not have anything that I'm holding with such clenched
Mm,
fists that if
so
you were
good.
to say, no more in whatever this area is that I'm sort of resisting that. And we're always going to have our core things. Like again, if you're married and you have kids, like there are some things that like as a mom, like this is just you're going to keep raising your kids, like that's not on the table. But I think in terms of activities, professional endeavors, things like vacations, like we're talking about, like all the optional things that even if culture doesn't say they're optional, those things can come and go at different seasons. We really have to be willing sometimes to like lay those at the Lord's feet.
Man, and I think you're going to give somebody permission to quit something today just because I think your story isn't one of like it wasn't working, so we just phased it out. Like it was on its uphill climb.
Yeah.
Like you have a huge community. And so I've done that as well. And I do not regret any of it. I took 3 years off. I stopped speaking. There's all different lanes where I did feel like it was one of those things that needed to go. And that's a hard thing because you're like, Lord, I thought you brought this to me to minister to people and you're using me. And he's like, and I think probably what you feel too is like, that's no more valuable than you ministering to the own kids in your life and giving them margin because my kids can tell when I am at my capacity, like I will literally like shake or like I'll be like lost driving. I mean, there'll be like physical signs. I'll have more migraines. I won't look at them as much. I'll be so conflicted in that overload that when I finally got a taste of true margin several years ago, I was like, oh my gosh, I'm such a better mom. And it's not to say all of us can go quit our jobs, but I love your encouragement of saying like put it all on the table and say like Lord, which thing can close down. So how are you feeling right now? Is it bittersweet? Are you sad? Are you okay?
Yes, it is bittersweet. I mean, like I said, it's something we've been planning towards for a long time.